Good evening mga kalaro and welcome to the Council of Titos, the show on the Laro-Laro lang channel where Sportitos talk about a different kind of game. The reality TV game show and social experiment that has run for over 2 decades. Survivor. I am Chief Bisdak Joel Parcon, and with me as always is Vice Chief Bisdak Jao Atienza. What's up, Jao? How are you doing?
Like a good ship. I hope that this ship that is the Council of Titos will be chugging along, sailing along quite nicely. I don't know. I'm forcing it.
All good, man. All good. All good. Yes, we do hope that this ship of the Council of Titos will keep on chugging along, and we will need you, our dear viewers, to help us keep chugging along, sailing along. As we continue on our review shows of the different episodes of Survivor. Now, for this episode, the Council of Titos will discuss their highs and lows for Survivor Season 42's finale, entitled "It Comes Down to This." And I think we don't need anything else. We don't need to say anything else. Without further ado, let's get it going. So, Jao, what are your highs?
Marianne.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Marianne's tribal performance specifically.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was just like, that was so good. We alluded to this last episode, I think, or during our last conversation, where the thing that we were hoping would happen, at least with regard to Marianne's character, happened. That she didn't sort of devolve into sort of like crazy emotional lady territory, and sort of had the growth arc with like the plus of winning.
It wasn't just a moral victory for her.
Yeah, because like the with reality shows, the people that get the growth arc usually get like booted off because they were able to achieve some sort of win, like Romeo in a way got like a growth arc as well, at least, like from that post merge into this finale, he got like the growth arc. And that's more typically how it happens. It's like, all right, we did something great and that's cool, but yeah, Marianne got the growth arc and she ended up like winning the whole thing with an amazing tribal performance.
Yeah, I mean, you could actually pinpoint exactly when she won the jury over. With that last statement about her laying out, okay, this when I got to final, what was that? Final 5, final 6, I had all of these different combinations, and and these were the ways that I could get to the final to win. Right? That's how she talked. I mean, we know, we've seen Marianne from the start. She likes to talk, right? And she talked her way into being able to eloquently explain her entire plan. However much real that was, that she had all of these different combinations, I hope it is, because that would have been right. Again, the gamesmanship was really high for that. Yeah, that was real, right? And again, it goes back to her being a fan of the game. She has all of these different. We all thought that Ty would be like the numbers guy, would have all of these different combinations.
Yeah,
but he got booted out, and then we were high on high. We were on the high road, and then it seemed as if Omar was the one who was pulling the strings behind the scenes, right? And he had all of these different. Okay, he's good with everyone, but then again, he gets booted out, and by Marianne's hand. And if you really think about it, in the final 3, it was Mike who had the strongest social game. Again, he was the one who was okay with everyone. He learned. He You can also say that's his growth. That's his growth arc. His horizons widened, right? Because he got to learn more about religion. Got to learn more about different backgrounds of these different people, right? Yeah, he was. You could think that his was the best social game, but he came up short because of, again, also because of that final tribal. And Marianne was able to do that, and it was kudos to Marianne. I wasn't rooting for her ever since the start because I thought that she was too hysterical. Uh, but I think that because of her performance in that final tribal, I think that she's very deserving of the win.
Yeah, the thing that really got me about Marianne, the thing that like really turned me on Marianne more than anything else was when she didn't play her idol,
Mm. Mm.
right? Because
Hmm.
like she was able to get Mike to play his idol for her,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was like, whoa, that's like that's a pretty big move right there, you know.
Hmm.
So like I think that's the point that I was like, all right, she's got. It was at that point in the episode that I was like, oh man, she's like, she just her stock just rose like
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
to the moon, to the moon,
To the
you know.
moon. And it
Yes, I've been trading stocks.
and it was it, I mean it was strategic when she didn't play her idol because the play there would have been for her to play it for Lindsay, right?
Right, but
Uh,
as she said, that would be like the absolute worst move
mhm.
for her. Like that sort of awareness that um bringing Lindsay closer to the end would be the absolute worst move for her because yeah, man, she beats Romeo, she beats Jonathan, and she has a better chance at beating Mike than Lindsay,
Mhm. Yeah.
or at least that was her plan. And I think she was right. Like
Yeah.
in a in a Lindsay Jonathan Marianne final three, it might have come down a little closer. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk about that in my lows, but yeah, bringing Lindsay to the end would not have been the best if we go back to her strategy. That probably was never part of the combinations that she had in mind heading into final tribal. She had the optimal, the best. Well, probably she probably would have had an easier time going up against a Jonathan Romeo final.
Yeah.
But Mike still she had but yeah, because of that performance, the testimony in the final tribal, that's what got her there, and Mike's testimony as well in final tribal killed his chances, right?
It was like Mike lost the game just as much as Marianne won it,
Yeah.
which is admittedly one of my lows. Um, but like the brilliant thing about Marianne, and this is why Mike playing the idol for her, I think, was the thing that really put me on the Marianne train towards the end. There was that would have been a big move for Mike
Hmm.
to sort of bolster his
His
I'm
social game,
playing
his
this
being like
game with honor,
yeah.
whatever, that whole thing. But then that's just completely negated when Marianne pulls out the idol and says, "I didn't need Mike to play it,"
Hmm. Yeah.
because that was the implication there that like she just negated his one of his bigger moves. That's why I was like, all right, so she might have a chance at beating Mike at the final three. Um, yeah, so like it totally made sense.
Hmm.
And that's also to the credit of the producers that they were able to put it together in such a way that it did make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Marianne with the win. Uh, yeah, the second back-to-back Canadian wins.
Yeah, keeping it in Canada.
Yeah,
Both like non-white Canadian women,
yeah.
which is refreshing,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is quite refreshing.
Yeah.
Um, would have been nice if Winners at War was Sandra with a three-peat, but just to sort of have that streak there.
Yeah.
But no.
We'll take since it's a new era, drop the four. It's now we're back down to one and two. So yeah, the first two winners of the new era of Survivor are Uh, no, well, they're still you can still call them Americans because they're in North America.
North Americans, yeah.
Yeah, non-U.S. citizens, I would say.
Yeah, non-white American women.
Yeah, yeah, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool, and it speaks towards the direction sort of that CBS and that Survivor and CBS is going, where they're encouraging more diversity in their casting. They're encouraging a lot more to be more open with their casting,
Yeah.
and yeah, it just goes to show like there is a lot of there are a lot of good players out there, right?
Mhm.
It's not just limited to the spectrum that used to be the usual casting for these reality shows. Right?
In fact, no, the only, I'm not sure if we said this on air, but the only person that looked like a more sort of traditional Survivor female cast member was Tori.
Tori, yeah.
Like she was the only one really.
Well, in a way, you can probably say Jonathan because he's like the big Caucasian dude.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, it's really, I mean, Tori. Yeah. But aside from the two of them, this was a really, and I think that's what contributed to probably for me. I really like this cast. Also, I like season 41's cast, but I sort of kind of felt more excited about this cast. I mean, it's because
yeah.
we have all of this diversity in the cast. That was pretty cool to see.
We'll talk about that in our next episode. Why I think we prefer this cast to the previous one.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
So yeah,
a little bit of foreshadowing for our for our
for our audiences,
yeah.
we can't call them viewers anymore because we're also, by the way, we're also on audio podcasts now.
Yep.
Yeah, wherever you get your audio podcasts, you can check us out. But yeah, for now, for me, while we've been sort of saying that Mike bungled that final tribal up, I do have to say that at the start of the episode, right, I really like the him been playing up his social ties and his being an
Yeah.
inspirational speaker. Like it was that was a cute moment for me when he was the one telling Lindsay, don't give up, don't give up. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like that nice uncle that you've got that you can run to whenever you have a problem, and then you can just run to this uncle, and then he'll like just tell you, chin up, keep your chin up, everything's gonna be all right. Right? Just play your game, right?
Yeah. Mike, the ultimate ninong sa kasal material.
For our non-Filipino speaking audiences, that's the godfather the of your of during the weddings. Yeah. So yeah, you run to these people, you run to your godparents whenever you've got a problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's that he's the epitome of that. Right. And it was really cool. It was a really cool moment for me to see him win that one that reward challenge.
Mm.
Because truth be told, I relate to him the most because I'm like in my 40s and then he's 57, I think, or something. Yeah, he's old. Uh, and yeah, I've sort of been watching ever since season one. Well, season two, to be honest. But yeah, he's been waiting for 21 years. He's been that long a fan of the
Yeah.
show, and for him to win at least one reward challenge, right? The final reward challenge, that was pretty cool. That was a pretty. I felt it felt cool for Mike to have that moment for himself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course in the end during the reunion he was such a gracious runner up. Yeah, to to Marianne. He was even he was very supportive of what Marianne achieved. Right? He was like, this girl, she's gonna make good use of the money and everything and all of that. And
Yeah.
yeah, Mike is a Mike is a cool guy. It's just that yeah, we'll talk about it in the lows. But yeah, Mike is a cool. We'll end with that. I'll end with that for my high for Mike. He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. And I get now why Daniel thinks that he's going to be a friend of Mike until the day that one of them dies.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably Mike. So bad.
Yeah. Any other thing that you want to point out as a high?
Romeo, man. Romeo.
Mm. Mhm.
Like, ooh, he played a really good, apparently he played a much better game than we were shown.
Mhm.
Like looking at his exit press, this was just sort of a
Mm.
glimpse of the game that he played. Um but yeah, like things like and this also did come out of tribal. He kind of knew what was going on, like I remember we were asking those questions like why did Romeo end up casting that weird stray vote, that sort of thing.
Mm.
And that was just tremendously strategic because he knew that it was, here's the main target and the backup is poor old Romeo. So, what does Romeo do in that position? Not vote for the target, vote for some other person to have like a stray bullet, hit them, right? Like that was a much better strategy than I sort of realized while watching through the season. It was, it was presented as like, hey, Romeo doing weird Romeo things, but like there was a lot more method to what we thought of as his madness, right?
Mhm.
um like how to play from the bottom, right? Like he really couldn't go out there and make those big moves. So, things like hanging back and observing and all of that sort of thing is, I guess, how one should play from the bottom, and kind of it kind of worked out for him. It's just we weren't given as much insight into that as I think we could have gotten. Um, but then again, it was because I would think that it was also partly because Marianne was playing from the bottom as well,
Mm.
which is another high there as well, right? Like where we have back-to-back winners that are non-white Canadian women, but also people that pretty much played from the bottom,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I think that's part of what makes it such a satisfying sort of past two seasons. We didn't see sort of the the beast like take everything. We didn't see Omer, we didn't see Jonathan, we didn't see Lindsay or Dreo win. um we didn't see Shan, we didn't see Ricard, we didn't see all of like the great players kind of at the top when we saw the people playing from the bottom. And that just made for a really good and satisfying finale.
Mhm.
Seeing Marianne, who was just pretty much all, who was pretty much on the outs for most of the post merge game, sort of flying under the radar while at the same time being on everybody's radar. I don't know how she did it, but it worked out really well.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yeah, so the people playing from the bottom and doing it really well, that was a high. But like Romeo playing a better game than we saw,
Then we
and
saw
that moment that he had winning that final,
that final challenge. Yeah.
yeah, that final immunity challenge, like
That was huge. I mean, for the entirety of the season, we've been purpling him. He's like the purple of the episode. He's like the goat of the episode. And then
yeah.
all of a sudden he came up huge in that. Now here's a question for you. Was that more Jonathan messing up than Romeo winning, or was it just Romeo winning?
Well, that was Romeo winning, dude. I mean, well, to be fair, Jonathan isn't exactly great with like fine motor skills, right? We've established that. Um, but I would think that was straight up a Romeo win. Um, you come to think of it, like during our um episode, during our preseason discussion on season 42,
Mm.
when we were making our picks. My pick was obviously high
Hi, yeah.
because, you know, um, Southeast Asia. He came from Vietnam, right?
Yeah, I remember your second pick was Romeo.
My second pick was Romeo, and I should have just like stuck with my guns there. Like I should have just stuck with my guns.
True, true. Well,
But it had to meander. I had to be like, no, I'm on the Lindsay train now. Like, well, I should have stuck it out with Romeo. I'm sorry, Romeo.
yeah. But speaking of Lindsay, though, I mean, kudos to her. It was sad. It's another low of mine, and I think that you probably have that as one of your lows as well. But her getting voted out. But anyway, s- kudos to her on solving that word jumble, right? And
Yeah.
finding that foot. I mean, for the life of me, if they had not outlined it post prod with that yellow lining, I would not have seen the foot
That's
in that
true.
rock. It's like, what? How could she have seen that? Again, it goes back to the conspiracy theory that the show is scripted. The producers prodded her to like, that's the foot. Don't you think that looks like a foot? Right? But yeah, yay for Lindsay because up until then I was like rooting for her already. But yeah, I could not go good on her for solving that word jumble. But how could she have seen that foot? Good on her then for finding that foot as well. Right?
I don't know. She didn't say like that looks like a toe. She was like, oh, that looks like something could be there.
Right? I don't know.
Survivor being super cryptic with that final because I remember the one in 41 was something about like where the trees love to
Yeah,
dance or
yeah,
something. It was just like, huh, okay. Um, what does that mean? You know?
yeah. And then yeah, I don't know. And then Erica all of a sudden like found it, right?
Yeah,
Where yeah.
just randomly found it. And I get the feeling that Lindsay also kind of stumbled on it, similar to how Erica did, at least in the sense that it wasn't oh, that looks like a toe or that looks like a foot.
That
Like,
looks like a foot. Gosh.
yeah.
Survivor, you've got some explaining to do. How they
I
came up with it.
think part of their explanation as well was Marianne, not like Marianne
Not really helping. Yeah,
sandbagging, right?
sandbagging.
Because like the impression that we got was that she actually solved it, but you know, kind of didn't want them to get the advantage.
True.
Right?
She was rooting for Lindsay. She was rooting for Lindsay to find that advantage, which is
Yeah.
weird because she wanted her to get that advantage. Because I guess that back at that time the target was Jonathan already.
Mm.
So she wanted Lindsay to get the advantage so that she gets a head up on that in that challenge, right?
Yeah.
But then again, it was a reward
It
challenge.
was the reward challenge. It wasn't
Yeah.
an immunity. So, you know, it wasn't like 41. 41, that was the immunity challenge
If
that
I remember
Erica
correctly,
got.
yeah, I
That,
think it was
it
the
was the
immunity.
immunity. So, like, I guess they realized that it was a little too strong to
Yeah,
have the
maybe.
advantage right at the immunity challenge. Like, what's it? Erica finding it was, at least in their minds at the time, would have been just Erica finding the or winning the immunity. But
Yeah,
like as we found out this episode, that's not necessarily the case because Mike ended up
winning
um,
the
winning
challenge.
the
Yeah,
reward. But that's neither here nor there.
yeah, yeah. Until we like, if we get to talk to Jeff Probst or Mark Burnett, you know, or any producer from Survivor, we'll never know, and they probably won't even spill the beans on that. Right? Do you have any
Yeah.
other highs?
Um. Again, Romeo.
Mm,
Not only Romeo having like an awesome moment and all of that, but Romeo um getting a quote unquote win in the sense that he might have been our goat of the week like every week, but he didn't get brought into the final three.
Mm,
Like
mm.
he earned his
He
spot
earned his
in
spot.
final
Mm,
three, which
yeah.
is, which is probably an even bigger win.
Mhm.
Um, which I think makes him like not a goat, really, if that makes sense.
Mm.
You know,
Interesting.
because
Interesting.
the quote unquote goat position is the person that one would take to the end,
Mhm.
um, because they didn't put him in fire or something. You know?
True. True. Yeah. But then again, you could always argue that okay, had he not won, they whoever won probably would still bring him.
Yeah, and that would be the goat thing,
Yeah.
being carried from 4 to 3.
Yeah.
But he earned his spot from 4 to 3, which is tremendously inspirational.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean,
especially
I was like, go Romeo for when he won that, right? Uh, didn't change my didn't change my opinion on whether or not he was gonna get the million, but
oh
go
yeah,
Romeo. Yeah. Good on him.
yeah.
Good on him for being able to do that. Yeah.
Right. What's do you
Oh,
have any
uh,
highs?
for me, this is I don't remember if in 41 they had this, but I liked that we got confessionals from the jury before the
that
final
was
tribal,
that was my other high.
right? Right. I mean, it
Yeah,
was
the
so
jury
cool
confessional.
for us to see their point of view, for us to really we're not going into final tribal blind with regards to what the jury is thinking about.
Yeah,
So yeah, and it set up it really also it beautifully set up final tribal, and it beautifully set up Marianne's win.
yeah,
Because essentially the entire jury was undecided, right?
yeah,
I personally think that had Lindsay been part of the final three, it would have been different. They
right.
wouldn't have been undecided. A lot of them would have been going for Lindsay, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but it was so cool. It was so cool to see them to see the jury getting that one final confessional before final tribal.
I mean, and like it was pretty much the jury that set up this dichotomy between Mike and Marianne, where um Marianne was more aware of the game that the jury was perceiving she was playing,
Mhm.
while at the same time,
Mike was oblivious.
yeah, Mike was oblivious. Or like, yeah, she was more aware of her game, and
Mhm.
she was more aware of what was it about her game that was working. And I
Mhm.
think that's what the jury was looking for. Right? Like we alluded to this, but sort of the reflectiveness, the sort of self-awareness
Mhm.
of of people this season was the thing that we were like, wow, that's really cool. Like when there was that brief moment in there when Jonathan was being rather self-aware, we were like, wow, this is amazing. Towards the end there, we were shown that it's only during confessionals that he's self-aware. But when it actually matters for the game, not for the show, but when it matters for the game, like he wasn't as self-aware. Um, but seeing that Marianne was the most self-aware, or was more self-aware than Mike, was very much set up by the jury, right? Like when Omer
Mhm.
was saying this is the type of game that we think Mike played,
Mhm.
and if he owns up to it, like this is going to be his to, this is the million is going to be his.
Yeah.
That self-awareness, I don't think could have been set up in a better way than, you know getting the jury to come in and talk. So yeah, this is a high that we share.
Yeah. Yeah. Because had they done that during final tribal, I mean, that would have signaled Mike, okay, I need to own up to my stuff, right? But they kept that. It's cool that they kept it from the final three, but they but they showed it to us, the audiences of the show, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked any other way. You're right. It wouldn't. It perfectly set it up. How that final tribal came out, right?
Yeah, because as I don't know, as a teacher, you would know that the last thing you want to do when you're going through a line of questioning with a student is give them the answer to the question,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to outright say that they're looking for self-awareness is the equivalent of a teacher asking the student um a question by giving the answer to the question in the question, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was something that kind of tickled my teacher brain, like, yeah, this is the lesson plan. You know?
yeah, yeah. And I can sort of relate because like whenever like I don't I've only taught one class ever, and it didn't really have I didn't need that kind of a approach. But whenever, like, say for example, if someone asks me to tutor them, I don't give those people the answer. It's more satisfying for me and for them to come up with the answer on their own, right? That's
Yeah,
always if you give them the answer in the question, if you spoon feed them, that's not satisfying. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like you lead them to what you're looking for, which is what they were doing at tribal,
Yeah.
essentially, right? Like, what was your social game?
Mm-hmm. 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 I mean, the who was it? I think it was Story who asked the question that about Mike's strategy, I think. And
Yeah.
I had it in my notes like, okay, I think that Hai or Omar wanted Tori to ask that question for them, right?
Mm.
Because it was Hai who got, I think it was Hai who got really, who was the first victim of Mike's how do you call that? It's not two-faced. I don't think that Mike is two-faced. I honestly think he's not
Yeah.
two-faced, but the fact that he does he sort of wants to portray playing nobly, but in fact he's like doing different kinds of deals. So it was
Yeah.
I who got affected by that first, right? And then I think that they wanted, or unless Story just picked it up out of her conversations on Ponderosa, right, with the rest of them. But yeah, that's that, right? Yeah.
I don't know. See, Mike, he he actually thought he was playing uh the honorable game
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
when really he was being somewhat duplicitous.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember who it was. It was like one of the podcasts. Um, they mentioned that uh, or their theory was Mike was the how do they put it? And I'm sort of paraphrasing it best. The way that Mike rationalized it to himself was probably he was playing the honorable game, and when he perceived that somebody backstabbed him,
Mm.
whether that person actually backstabbed him or not, it became sort of morally justifiable to return the favor and still be honorable. Sort of one
Mm-hmm.
of those like that's how they think his reasoning went. And I can see how Mike would kind of believe that and kind of use that as his reasoning. But that isn't what people felt,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there were instances where you know Hyde didn't necessarily backstab him.
Yeah.
Going
Yeah.
back to Hyde being the first quote unquote victim, like Hyde didn't backstab, which I guess is kind of why they made it a point to show that Omer was the one that, or to make it clear that it was Omer's lie
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like really high that did anything to necessarily get Mike out at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, kudos to producers for being able to stitch all of that up and
Yeah.
tell a good story, right? With that. Yeah, any other for you? Any other highs?
Still High being the face of the jury. Well, again, High and Tori
Mhm.
being like the face of the jury. They're just like so expressive, and it's just it's so endearing.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah.
And
Well, speaking of the jury, yeah, that was pretty well. Jeff, I think, said it right. Jeff's synthesis was right. It was a great final tribal. Not just from the castaways, from the answers of the final three, but it was a great final tribal from the jury, right?
yeah,
The way that the questions that they asked, it wasn't no, there were no throwaway questions, there were no throwaway jury statements, right? And that was pretty cool to see. That was pretty cool to see.
yeah. It's, um, the jury were students of the game and not students of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, it showed. Again, part of the I think it's part of the evolution of the game now. Like, you've gotten to this point, you're 40 seasons in. uh this would be the equivalent of analytics in getting into baseball and basketball. People are now analyzing how they should be playing.
Yeah,
It's going into that, right? It's getting into that side. But of course, it's not a scientific, probably not. Aside from High's case, probably because he's like a data scientist.
mhm,
But yeah, everyone else, it's an instinctive thing. Like, because you're such a fan of the game, you've been watching it for 40 seasons. That you instinctively know the different nuances that you have to look at when you were actually playing it, right?
yeah. The thing with that though is um in psychology
Mm,
when um the people being experimented on know that they are being experimented on, it skews the results and the outcome is somewhat different. So that's sort of the thing with having super fans and these great students of the game play the game. um, it changes the very nature of the game, and everything that they kind of intuitively know might have to go out the window, given that everybody is coming at it as as a student of the game. That's part of what makes Survivor something that I'm really into.
mm,
Like that human element.
exactly.
um it isn't necessarily scientific so much as it is social scientific, which has that weird sort of element of human chaos in it.
Mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Any other highs?
uh, can I say that the whole episode was a high?
The entire from Final Five down to Marianne winning. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great, like, super satisfying finale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
More satisfying than 41. Find out next week when we have our post-mortem show. All right. If you don't have any more highs, I think that we can go to our friend Martin with Martin's thoughts with Martin
from the other side of the world.
from the other side of the world.
Martin's thoughts with Martin. Martin. Yeah.
Obviously, the highest of the high would be Marianne winning this season. I mean, I guess it was a toss up between her and Mike, but Mike really fumbled bad in the final tribal council. It was his to lose, and it was his to lose indeed. Because I'm pretty sure most of them were leaning towards Mike, but kind of messed up at that point. So big ups to Marianne for pulling out that win. This was a great season for her. I'm so happy that she won. And that's the second time a Canadian has won. This is the first time in 20 years an African American has won Survivor since Vesepia Towery back in Survivor Marquesas. So this is history making as well, you know. And now, out of nowhere, Romeo pulled it through and decided who had to do the fire making competition. It was going to be Mike and Jonathan. So good on him. Wow. He was literally the kingmaker in that episode. So big ups to the winner and big ups to Survivor Season 42 because it's been a fun season.
Martin's Thoughts with Martin. Martin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I do have to say though that just a quick little correction. The last African American to win was Wendell.
Wendell, yeah. I think
But African-American woman.
African American woman. Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, but just just
Cool. So let us go ahead and go to our lows. All right. If it's okay with you, I'll start. I have just a few actually. Well, my first one is, well, the first, I have to say this. My first low is Lindsay being eliminated at 5. I really wanted her to make it to the end. I think that if she had made it to the end, she would have had a huge chance of winning everything. Like I mentioned during our discussion of the highs. Yeah, but then again, she was right. If she was gonna go, that was the best way to go. Being recognized as the biggest threat to win. Right? Yeah, I think that, and I think that yeah, even the reactions of the jury when she was the one who's gonna get voted out, you could see. And I think it was Hai who said, "I liked her." Was it Hai?
yeah.
Right?
I think it was High. Again, high face of the jury.
Right? He said that. So it was you could see that the jury liked her game. She was just as strong in challenges as Jonathan, but was not as obnoxious, or it's not obnoxious at all. She was when at the start of the season, we called her like the nurturer of Taku, right? She was the one who was nurturing the Taku tribe, and I think that us seeing that at the start, it probably was consistent. Hopefully, it was consistent even post merge. Yeah, and so that tells, and I think that her statement, because she gave a statement about, I guess my social game is just that bad, right? I think that was her trying to downplay her chances as a social threat, because while we did see that she didn't always have the sway, wasn't always able to sway the tribe. She was considered a friend at the very least of everyone.
Yeah.
Right? Well, except Jonathan.
You voted for me.
With that smile, man. Okay, that was it. That was it for me for Jonathan. Anyway, before we go to that, what about you? What's your low?
The way Lindsay just gave up.
She didn't fight.
Yeah.
She didn't fight within the tribal.
Yeah, like during it was like she had resigned to her fate, and I hate people. I hate it when people act like that, or I hate it when people feel like that. You know, it hurts me as well. You know, when I see students just feel like they're giving up, like it's something that kind of hurts me as well. So, like I felt so bad for Lindsay in that moment. You know, like Mike, like chin up.
Yeah, right. Ninong Mike was like, chin up, man, chin up, kid.
Yeah, so it was like, I suppose that was the down in the sense that I felt so bad. Like it was something that that hit me on a sort of gut level. weird as that is. Yeah. So not only Lindsay leaving, but Lindsay just looking as though she had given up.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Yeah, that was it. That was my biggest low,
Mhm.
because I was very much on the Lindsay train.
Yeah, it was really hard to see her go. It was really hard to see her go. Yeah, again, she's one of those. She was the she was our consistent. Sorry, I mentioned earlier that we made Romeo. We basically made Romeo the purple of this season, but in fact, it was Lindsay. Lindsay was the purple mostly of the at the start, right?
Yeah,
She's such a purple that Martin has forgotten her name. Cannot recall her name. And then all of a sudden she's like individual challenge after individual challenge. She showed up. It was hard to see her go. It was hard to see her go that way because yeah, I do think if she made final three, she would have won it all. She would have
yeah.
won it all. Right. Uh, yeah. Ah.
Mm.
Now
So
on to the other like challenge beast. For me, if you got sort of hurt by Lindsay's disposition close to the end, for me, I hate the fact that we actually saw the cocky Jonathan.
the Jonathan heel turn.
Yeah, the heel turn in the end. I mean, all throughout the season, he was this. It's my service to whoever, whatever, and then my strength is my service. I will do this for you, and all of that. And all of a sudden, for this last episode, we see how just from that start that you voted for me, that cocky smile. That was something that I didn't expect Jonathan would do because we haven't been presented that throughout the entire season. And even the way that he sort of dismissed anyone who would who would who would challenge would be his challenger for the fire. That just really, I mean, really, dude, really. So that's how you've been actually been behaving. So there was really some truth. There was really a lot of truth in what Chanel was saying about the hero edit not being earned. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, it's sad to see that. It's yeah, it's sad to see that. It's sad to see that coming to light, right?
I don't know. They couldn't help themselves. Survivor production saw a big muscly white dude and was like, "All right, we gotta edit this guy as a hero." Towards the end, like, "Oh my god, what are we doing?"
What are we doing? He's not a hero. Come on. It would have been
He-
nice if we had like hints, if we saw hints from the start. Like it doesn't have to be anything big, right?
yeah,
Well, we sort of got that when during that debacle over the fishnet, right? With Drea, but they still sort of explained it away as him like he's very tired because he burns a lot of calories and he doesn't get to eat
yeah.
as much. They still sort of explained it away, but the attitude that he had for this episode, that was, for me, it was out of nowhere for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Even I thought they first started sort of foreshadowing it when Dre and Marianne both played their idols after Roxroy got voted out, um, where he was like, "I'm not being racist. I'm not racist. You're saying I'm racist." Yeah, like that. Like you know, um, it was. I guess it was kind of foreshadowed there, but
Mhm.
like I don't know. It would have been nicer to see more of that gradual descent as opposed to like falling off a cliff. Like
Yeah,
narratively, I think that would have made a bit more sense,
yeah,
and that would have perhaps built up Marianne a little bit better.
exactly. I was gonna get to that, right? I mean, because they were, aside from the Lindsay Jonathan uh, 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 differences, right? The differences that they had,
Yeah,
it was always sort of alluded that Jonathan and Marianne were not on good terms. I mean, it
Yeah.
goes back to to Taku. Remember, we were on the side of Jonathan for that whole thing when he was like trying to chop that bamboo, and then
Yeah.
Marianne walks up, and then you hurt me, and all of that,
Yeah.
and all of that, and we were on Jonathan's side for that because we honestly we did think that Marianne, that's not necessarily just your space, and you do see him putting down all of that wood, and you know that he's going to do that.
Yeah.
Why do you all of a sudden walk in, right? And it and that put that friction in our radar, and had they sort of built up, not necessarily made him a villain outright, but showed more and more of that side, if it was really consistent all throughout the season, uh and it wasn't something that just really came out as he was wearing down
Mhm.
physically, uh it would have made Marianne's rise all the more majestic in this in a sense, like it's the complete underdog. You're this tiny little African American woman, and you're up against this. Well, they called him the Goliath, right?
Yeah.
Such a David, and that's a David and Goliath. If you were to have a David and Goliath, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So um that's also something that I have here as a low. Jonathan's heel turn. Like
Mm,
it was a wasted opportunity for a gradual sort of heel turn as opposed to what felt like sort of falling off a cliff. Um yeah. The I did see the flashes here and there, but like remember the episode or remember the yeah, the episode that I was calling a Jonathan heel turn, that was maybe like 3 or 4 episodes
mm,
ago. Like that's when it should have happened.
yeah, yeah.
That's when it should have happened. They still gave him
They tried
more,
to, yeah, they tried to explain it away, right?
yeah, so
I mean, you get to the
ugh.
climb. The climax should be far away from the win. Essentially, it's not like, and during the climax, that's when you see the actual protagonist and antagonist, right?
Yeah, so that's that's it. That's it. The in the same way there's a decoy winner. There was a decoy feud. The decoy feud was Jonathan and Lindsay when
Nothing.
the ultimate battle really was Marianne and Jonathan.
Mhm.
That was probably like the most formative uh rivalry, I guess, in this last episode and perhaps throughout the season. No, because they were both very big personalities and very different. They're the personality. They're both very big players in very different ways.
Jonathan literally big, and
Yeah.
then Marianne a
Marianne,
big
big
personality.
personality.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that could have been something that they kind of contrasted.
Mhm.
And as Marianne was rising to be our winner, to see Jonathan kind of fall off, but
Yeah.
more gradually would have narratively made it a little bit better. But
Well, I guess that they worked with what they had. They probably didn't really have that much. Uh, I'm giving the producers of Survivor a benefit of the doubt. They didn't have material to show to
to
show
show
the
that,
gradual Jonathan drop off,
uh,
right? Yeah. Anyway, any other low for you?
um, Mike not being aware of his own game, dude.
We
like,
have that same, but yeah, go ahead. You go. You
like,
started off, and I'll just continue. I'll pick it up.
like, it was just sad.
Mm.
Sad that Drea got it wrong.
Mm.
If you make it to the end, you'll probably win. Well, the one thing that could have gotten him to lose was the thing that got him to lose, like not being able to identify the game that he
He was
like.
playing.
It was like it's like Survivor is about, people talk about Survivor as being like all about perception and perception being reality within the game of Survivor. Um, and I think sort of the consequence of that is what the jury is looking for is self-awareness,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And it was just sad that Mike wasn't able to pick up on that until it was a little too late. Like not being able to identify the game that he was playing uh, was just kind of sad. you know,
Had
just
he only
kind of sad.
owned up, or had he known to own up to that, uh, yeah, that would have been really, that would have won him the game. I honestly think,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that would have won him $1 million.
It was his to lose, and he spent all of his he spent all of his Hoboken luck on starting a fire.
And winning that reward challenge despite
Yeah, and winning
being at a
the reward.
disadvantage because of his age and Lindsay having that advantage, right? Because that reward challenge was no easy task,
Yeah.
especially for a 57-year-old, right?
Mm.
Doing all, I honestly thought that he would fall from that, that one of the parts of the reward, the challenge where he had to traverse a tightrope. Well, not really a tightrope. Yeah, that rope, and then you were
Yeah,
holding
yeah.
on to something on top because he was like wavering the entire time. Yeah. So yeah, I
So
mean, there, yeah, he. I think that, yeah, it's a low because I think that Mike, honest to goodness, thought that that his good social standing was part of his game,
yeah,
right? Again, not being self-aware, that's a part of the game.
yeah.
That's actually something that you can do, right? uh
And arguably the most important part of this new era game,
yeah,
self-awareness.
self-awareness. Yeah, and he actually continued that streak of in Survivor season 42 of because it became a recurring theme of people giving their word to others and falling short. Like we started with Swati with calling
Yeah.
everyone their number one, her number one, and then you had Omar who made all of these promises all around, pulled all of these strings, didn't get there, and then Mike gave her word to a lot of people, ended up hurting his chances of locking their votes because he didn't own up to, or he didn't realize that he needed to open. I don't think that he 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 knew that he had to own up to that part of the game,
Yeah.
uh, part of his game, right? Yeah, he gave his word to both Marianne and Lindsay for that final. Uh, Imagine if he had given the necklace to Lindsay, right before, because they had, their pact had been longer, right?
Yeah.
Their back had been older. Yeah, imagine if he had done that, and then Marianne would have played her idol, so Jonathan would have gone,
Yeah.
right? That would have. Or wait, did Jonathan win that immunity?
No.
Yeah, he did, right? He won that immunity in final five.
Wait.
Yeah, he won that
Yeah,
immunity
yeah.
in final five. So Romeo would have gone. Or, yeah. Oh, did Romeo have votes on him even? He probably was. I don't quite remember. But yeah, it would have changed that whole thing about him giving too many people his word, cost him to lose social standing with some of them
Mm.
because he had to be honorable in his sense. And I do think that, yeah, in his understanding, yeah, like what you said, he was playing an honorable game. Yeah. Oh. But yet,
Sad.
it's sad. It's sad that he wasn't. He also wasn't as eloquent. I mean, Marianne was really eloquent with the way that she talked with the jury,
Yeah.
and then you had Mike who didn't really quite know how to explain how he played his game. He was locked in on. I played an honorable game. I played a noble game.
Yeah.
He didn't quite get farther than that. Yeah, and Marianne really thought everything through.
Marianne is going to be a very good preacher.
Yes.
She's going to be a
Yes.
very good like church, like congregation leader or whatever. Like she's going to be very good at that. You can kind of see it, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the way she talks to the way she was talking to the jury, like thank you for asking that question, like acknowledging their feelings,
Mhm.
before proceeding to talk about her
Or
game,
whatever. Yeah, her game. Yeah, explaining her, answering the question, basically. Yeah,
yeah.
it
I,
goes
I can
back to
see
that time. Marianne, very deserving winner. Very
Yeah.
deserving winner. Speaking of Marianne, I saw a post. I saw a post on like this shout out to the official Survivor group, Survivor Philippines group. There was a post there. It was Marianne's Instagram. She has this post there where she and Zach were holding hands in front of a beach. So maybe they did get that date. Maybe they did get that date. Who knows?
It was really funny during her exit press. Like Zach shows up just in the background. Hi.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Pero si ano, pero may like she has a boyfriend apparently.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it's like the Marianne Zach thing is
It's a love
it's
team. In
very
the Philippines, it's a love team.
but this is a very Gen Z thing. It's like, this isn't like a real relationship love team thing. It's just doing it for the TikToks, like
It's a collab. It's a collab.
yeah, it's a collab.
Yeah, that's what it is. That
Basically.
is what it is. Okay. Any other lows?
What I'm saving them for our episode next week.
Okay. All right. Let's see what Martin has to say. What Martin has to share on Martin's thoughts.
With Martin from the other side of the world, Antipodal City.
Martin's thoughts with Martin. Martin. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a low of the lows, but obviously the low point here was Mike fumbling in Final Tribal Council. Like I said, it was his to lose and he lost it. I think he should have had a way with words, but last minute chokeout, it happens. But I'm glad he still became second place. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I miss the long ass trips of Jeff from Tribal to New York or to LA, wherever they will put the CBS soundstage on for the finale. You know, that kind of thing? Yeah, I miss those kinds of ridiculous journeys he goes through from the final tribal council to the counting of the votes somewhere in the US months later. That's it.
Martin's thoughts with Martin. Martin. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Martin having similar thoughts. Mike not being eloquent, not having a way with words, and that sunk his game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
It's sad. It's sad. When Lindsay went out, I was rooting for Mike. Because we already saw how Jonathan was too cocky. But you're right. The Hoboken luck, the Jersey luck, it ended at the fire making thing, right?
Yeah.
But by the way, you called that. You called that the fireman made fire, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
And the fireman put out his own fire right at the very end.
Yeah. Ooh, wow, that's true. That's true. Oh gosh. Well, he is a fireman.
Yeah. The firefighter puts out his own fire. Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So since this was the finale, so we won't have any more predictions for this season. We're gonna tackle a lot of other thoughts that we've had about this season and compare it with season 41 as well next week during our season 42 post mortem. We move straight away to our survivors of the week. First things first, castaway of the week.
For me, it's a toss up between Romeo and Marianne.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
like Marianne because, oh my God, Marianne is just amazing. Like that final trial performance was just amazing, like chef's kiss. But like also Romeo because of his journey,
Mhm.
like being able to be comfortable with who he is after his experience in Survivor was, something quite cathartic as well.
Mhm.
And getting to sort of see that um in a way redemption arc, right? Like um Marianne throughout the course of the season got the growth arc. Romeo got a redemption arc.
Mhm. Mike
So
got, I don't know what
his
arc.
fire put out.
I actually my castaway of the week, I actually zoned in on Romeo because of that clutch win. He needed that win. Otherwise, he would have been labeled the goat. Because I don't think even if he didn't win that in final four, he would have still made it to final tribal. The outcome would have been still the same because he didn't receive any votes in final tribal. But at least, like what you mentioned, he earned his spot in final tribal.
Yeah.
Right. And sort of kudos to him for quick thinking with that fake idol thing. Right.
We didn't even bring that up.
Yeah.
And we didn't bring up much about the fire. That just shows how much there was in this
Yeah.
episode of Survivor. The fake idol that went nowhere.
The fake idol that went nowhere. But the fact that he said, okay, he declared that he has an idol at the start of the episode. You know what? I just want to let you guys know I have an idol and I intend on playing it. Yeah, I guess it also put that thought in their heads that okay, so it putting votes on Romeo might not work, right?
Yeah.
But then again, would they even put votes on Romeo if they thought that he was like the easy guy to bring to final tribal? Uh, but yeah, quick thinking on him. Kudos to him on the quick thinking for the final idol. Go to the week.
No, nobody. I was,
Nobody.
I was gonna instinctively go Romeo, but no, he wasn't the goat of the week. He just won the week, bro.
Yeah, he won the week. He won the week. All right. So yeah, same with me. The closest would have been Mike, because of that falter in the final tribal. But then again, he won the reward challenge, and it was cool to see this guy make it to final tribal and yeah, do come toe to toe with the rest of the young kids, the young guys, like the
Yeah.
big huge dude, the I don't think is Romeo in his 30s. He's probably in his early 30s at best, right? So that this 57-year-old dude just went toe to toe with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Purple of the week.
Speaking of going toe to toe, the purple of the week was that toe from the Clue. We didn't see it.
We did not see it at all. If they had not done that outline, that yellow outline, for the life of me, I would not have seen that. Right? Yeah, that's true. That's true. But for me, my purple of the week, Jonathan's fire making skills at the fire challenge. He talked a very big game. Even while Jeff was talking to them before the fire challenge, he was already eyeing the materials. He was like, "Ooh, wow, okay, that's how I'm gonna do it. Right, right, right. Then that's gonna happen. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna make it to the final tribal." But no, his skills gave out. Right.
So
Incidentally, I think that his Mike's win would have bolstered his game. Would have bolstered his game because he beat the Goliath.
Yeah. But unfortunately,
Yeah. Unfortunately, the jury was not looking for challenge wins. They were looking for self-awareness.
yeah. I mean, even in what's it, no? Even when Jeff talked about like with strategy and all of that, but he also tried to
For
bring in
physical.
like the physical part. I thought they would, talk about Jonathan and all of that, but the first question really was answered by Marianne saying that she scales and guts fish,
Mhm.
which kind of an insight into like this jury, you know, not respecting the challenge beast,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
just
But then again, yeah,
just another observation there.
the three of them. I mean, did Marianne even win a challenge? No, I don't think so. Did she? An
Not sure.
individual challenge. Romeo won that final in the immunity challenge, and Mike won that final reward challenge. So there weren't any challenge beasts, and it was cool of Marianne to shift the focus on the physical to try camp life,
Yeah.
right? Because Mike Mike didn't have and Romeo didn't have an answer to that. Didn't
Hmm.
have that at all.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah, another brilliant thing that Marianne did,
Yeah,
pivoting the physical part of it to like camp life, knowing that she wasn't one of the most physical players.
yeah, yeah. All right, there you go. Woo! And wow, yeah, that's it. That is it for this episode of the Council of Titos. Marianne Oketch is the sole survivor of season 42. As we've mentioned, that is back-to-back wins for Canadians. Mga kalaro, did you have her as your winner at the start of the season? Because I don't think any of us did. Anyway, let us know down in the comments. If you liked this video, hit the like button so we don't get voted off the channel. Also, consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon so you'll get notified whenever we come up with new content on the Laro-Laro Lang channel. This channel has other shows on it focused on sports and other similar things. We have one more video, or maybe a couple more videos on season 42, and it will be a post-mortem for this past season. It'll cover our thoughts about the entirety of season 42. We'll also look back on our preseason predictions to see which ones we got and which ones we were way off about. Tune in for that next week. Anyway, this has been Chief Bisdak Joel Parcon.
And I'm Jao, reminding you that there are good ships and bad ships, but the best ship is friendship.
Anyway, for those of you who also don't want to hear us but don't want to look at our mugs, we are also on Spotify and Google Podcasts and anywhere you can get your podcasts.
Apple Podcasts for
Apple
there as well,
Podcast. Yeah, just check it out. You will find the audio version of this episode there soon after. And anyway, we hope that you can join us on the council again next time. Until then, stay safe, everyone. The Titos have spoken.